All right, so here is step 2 to make this work as a negative space painting. So I'm going to mix up get some Payne's Gray ready with a big brush. This is pretty dry. It's still a little warpy, but we will deal with it. So the book does it a little bit differently than I would. They do it in a few different steps, especially this top corner right here. So I'll show you how I would do it. Rather than, well, so what they do is they start by kind of outlining, doing the tree line like this. Mine might not be the exact same as theirs, but, and then they fill this in, and then they let it dry. So I would not let it dry. And the reason for that is if you let this area dry, it's so dark that that line, for the most part, will always be there. So what I would do is I would do this part just how they did it, but before it dries, I'm going to switch to a smaller brush, a size 6. Let me get a little bit more of the Payne's Gray. And then I'm going to put in the detail of the tops of the trees. That way we're not making a hard line here. So I'm just kind of wiggling my brush to create an irregular top edge, just like the edges of trees. You can even go in a little bit with your brush with some more like leafy detail here. Maybe there's a branch sticking out. So I would do that along this entire top edge. This looks a little weird. Okay, and then I would do the same thing over here. So that's how I would approach that section. When you look in your book, you'll see they do have this really, really dark tree line. I would put that in once this area dries. You can do it now. We'll see what happens when I do it now. It will kind of spread because we're painting wet into wet, so you can do it now, but you might want to wait till this area is dry if you want some defined trees back there. And if you wanted to, you can even, it kind of looks like there's a little bit of a moon happening here. If you wanted to do something like that, you could, with a dry, not super dry brush, but kind of dry brush, lift some of that color. Because there's a little bit of green underneath it from that first wash, it's never going to get fully white, and that's probably good because the moon really isn't ever fully white, especially on a cloudy night, which is what this looks like to me. Okay, so I'd probably just leave it like that, and then I would move over to this side. Let's see, so we have some darkness here, so you could do the same thing to these trees. You can use the negative space painting method, and you're going to create the tree edge. And then I'm going to kind of spread the paint this way. If you outline and then fill in, you will find that you'll have more of a chance of a line, which you can actually see here. And that started pretty quickly. I wasn't away from that area for that long, but it already started to dry and leave a hard line. So just keep that in mind as you're painting. You might not want to outline and then fill in the space, okay? So I'm not following exactly what they're doing because I don't have the image. I'm not looking directly at the image right now, but you get the idea. So you'd kind of just fill the rest of that space in. Maybe there's another tree over here. So I'm kind of figuring out the outline of this tree, and then I'm gonna just spread my paint away from that area. Okay, and you can get that darker as you move on. Let's go back here. Okay, so you get the idea for the top areas of your painting. And then within the painting, you'll notice they are separating out these trees with a darker green, so like a Payne's gray mixed with your like cerulean and cadmium yellow. So that's what I'm gonna mix up right now. And I'll show you how you would approach a few of those areas. So let's see, you can, maybe we'll start here. I'm gonna put in a little bit of this darkness right there, as if there were maybe a shadow from these leaves up here. Whoops. I'm painting right up to where that tree branch is, in between these branches. And then I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna smooth out that edge. And it might be good to have some hard edges here. So I'm gonna continue this line on the other side of these tree trunks so that it looks like whatever's in the back, that tree in the back, continues. I'm gonna clean my brush, dry it off, or dab it a little bit, and then spread that color into the green and yellow that we already have in the background. So you can do this several times to make several layers of trees. So maybe there's something else right here. I'm just gonna kind of move my brush up and down, figure out kind of a curved area. So maybe this is another tree, I don't know, a bush or something. Clean my brush, dab it, and then take my brush and spread it. So areas like this, which I'm not loving because it's like super bright white, I'm gonna take a little bit of yellow that I used from earlier. If I can get it clean, it's like covered in green right now. And I'm gonna fill that in, but I'm paying attention to where my tree branches are and I'm kind of leaving those alone. I'll blend these a little bit. Okay, so you can keep working that way throughout your entire composition. Maybe over here, you would do the same thing. Clean my brush and spread the color. The most important thing now in this case is to make sure you're painting in between the tree trunks and the tree branches. That's what's going to make your tree branches and tree trunks stand out. Otherwise, if you just kind of left the areas light around them, you wouldn't be able to see them. So notice the areas that I am painting, I'm making sure it's darker than what I've already put down. Down here, we need a little something to make these tree trunks stand out. So I'm going to take just whatever green I have, kind of painting over the rock or right on top of the rock. Maybe there's some grasses down here, making this rock stand out in the tree trunks that are right next to that rock. Okay, and so now I have an idea of where these tree trunks are down here. Okay, so you can do the same thing around these rocks. You can make it slightly darker around them. They have it like almost black under here. And then the important thing is to spread that color. So you're not just outlining, you're outlining, then you're spreading the color. Otherwise, it will look like an outline. So let me know if you guys have any questions. If you want to get only this far, if this is one of the techniques that you choose, this is fine, because I think this gives you enough of an idea of how you might do the negative space, especially within the branches and the tops of the trees.